Thank you. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Like I was telling you off camera, being in a different space and having like a different routine, it's very exciting, but it's gonna take a while for me to adjust. So hopefully I won't be all over the place today.
It's good. But
yeah, because it's like I'm in a very safe and loving environment right now. So it's it kind of flutters the heart in a different way. And yeah, this is the first time that I'm going to be holding our conversation within a space that is quite different from what I usually am in. And like, even as far as like, I can burn incense here. So I get a little bit extra stimuli, like through the smells, and like I'm facing windows rather than facing a wall. Yeah.
So that's awesome. You're up against like a white wall or a light colored wall. So I feel like it's like your aura, your energy is really noticeable. You know, it's like you can see it well against the background. You're shining very brightly today.
Much like the sun outside, but thank you for noticing. It's it's interesting that, you know, some people can see it, some people can see what I feel. Yeah. And that's pretty special.
You're radiating it.
Yeah. It's good. And which, I mean, we can just jump right into it, which is la preuve that I'm in a space that I intentionally manifested. And it's not necessarily like I manifested being in this room with these colored walls and this picture. Like it's a state of being. And it started very early in life. I would look out my bedroom window and I would dream, and I would daydream or night dream about a type of love, a type of feeling, a type of togetherness with a person. And, you know, life goes on, and we do things and we learn things, and but only probably within the last 2 years since I've come back that I have been purposely manifesting, purposely narrowing my focus, being very specific about the type of sensation that I want to be in, the type of vibration, for lack of a better term. So I wanted to share one of the tools that I used in order to help create this. Because again, when I first came back to Windsor, when I first decided that, you know, I just needed a little reset, it was very important for me to have some sort of structure, because for me, it was like a blank wall. It was like a blank space. And sometimes within this world, because we have so much information available, there's so many options. And I think I've talked about this before. So just having a little bit of guidance, a little bit of narrowing my focus as to what I can be focusing on, one thing at a time, really helped. So one of my really good friends in Vancouver, she's also a holistic nutritionist. We had worked together for a lot of my physical ailments, and she follows this woman who's also a healer in Vancouver, and we'll put the references in the comments. And one of the things that I started doing is I started to use this lunar cycle. This is 2021, to set intentions for each month.
Yeah.
So the way that this tool works is that you have the 4 phases of the moon, and within those 4 phases, your intention is just a little bit, you do something different with that single intention. So with the new moon, she recommends that you set your intention, you relax into it, you feel it, you breathe in kind of like a new life force for that intention. And again, for me, like I need a little bit of structure. So for example, for the month of February, I chose to surrender and also s'enraciner, so to root down. So the new moon, I wrote it out, I felt it out. I was like, okay, this is what I'm focusing on. And then the first quarter, she suggests to take discerning action to support the intention, and that you trust that any challenges that you'll face will just allow it to grow. Right? So that's very important, because when you're focusing on kind of like one thing, there's definitely going to be life or people or anything that comes in. It's like challenges you to, stick to that intention, or maybe encourages you to go somewhere else. And you're just like, nope, what's my intention for this month? Okay, I want to surrender. So it's nice to kind of like, just focus on the one thing. Full moon. So the full moon, they suggest to take stock of what and what has not come into fruition. Celebrate the wins and let go of anything that does not serve the higher good. And for me, that was where journaling would come in. And I would write down, what served my intention of surrendering. Like there were some instances where it was really challenged to just like let life do its thing, right? Because I just want to control everything. But again, that changing the mindset of what serves your higher good, for me, that helped to be like, okay, well, this didn't make me feel great. This didn't align with my intention of surrendering or rooting down. And I let it go.
Yeah.
Right. And then the third quarter, which this one, I needed to continuously remind myself of it, because I'm the type of person that I just want to keep going. I just want to keep working at something like, but this one was bang on, because it's like, now that I'm receiving, I can give from a place of abundance, and I continue the progress of letting go and creating new space for the next lunar cycle.
Yeah.
So for me, that was almost like just living in the mindset that I am rooted down, that I have surrendered, not necessarily putting effort to working towards it anymore, because that's what I've been doing for the however many weeks prior. It was almost like just live with what you've created. You don't have to push anymore. You don't have to, go at it and journal and stuff. It was kind of just like, all right, I did this. Now let's just like soak it all in. And then once you're soaking it all in, it's a way of creating space for the new one, because you're like, okay, I got this. And then that kind of just eases its way out.
Yeah.
And then you feel a little bit lighter and you're like, okay, I'm ready for the new one.
Yeah.
So what was important for me is that I continued this month after month after month. And I think that's could be challenging for people in today's society when we're looking at the easy button, when we're looking at the quick fix, when we're looking at like do these 5 things today and you'll be set for the rest of your life kind of thing. So the point that I'm trying to emphasize is that every month I created an intention, and using this guideline, I either, woke up every morning and just kept repeating the words, or if a situation happened, I kept repeating words, or I'd write it down on my hand just so that I'd be like, oh yeah, that's my intention for this month. Because I found that if I was like, oh, but I want to focus on this intention, I'm like, no, wait. No, let's just do the one at a time. But then at the end of the year, you've already done 12.
Yeah.
And then what I found is that once I've worked throughout the year with all of these different ones, and sometimes I repeated them. Sometimes I was like, ooh, I need to do surrender again, or I need to go let go of fear again. But I maybe just tweak the words around. At the end of the year, your brain, your soul, your heart is retrained into what you've been intentionally doing. And I feel like I wouldn't be able to reach the state of love and of openness that I have reached, almost 2.5 years later, if it wasn't for these little focus points and these little tools that helped me.
I think it's really cool you're sharing that too, because everybody at some point finds themselves going, is what I'm doing working, and is the work I'm doing going to pay off? And is any of this making any progress? And it's cool for you to share your story of looking back on what helped you and to see where you're at today in this, literally in a new space, and just emphasize the point that it doesn't happen overnight and it's not instantaneous. And it's not, I don't know if it's really meant to be instantaneous. It is kind of part of the whole process. And the way you're feeling today might not feel as deeply if you hadn't taken these full cycles with it. It's cool. Are we in the 3rd quarter right now, today?
I believe so. I believe we're almost on this cycle. And I guess we chatted about the moon app. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're in the last quarter. We're in day 24. So if anybody had already set an intention for the new moon for this lunar cycle, right now is just the time to just let it happen.
Yeah.
You don't have to put the work. Don't have to put as much work into it anymore. And for me, the full moon is very high vibrational, and I feel like I'm extremely productive during those kind of those 3 days. And so it's nice to have that last quarter to be like, whew, okay, I'll just chill. I'll just lean into it and feel it out. So yeah, and I feel like everybody probably has their own method that will speak to them. And I think that if you can try to recall anything that you were doing as a child, I find that that's where you might be the most authentic. Your natural practices, your natural inclinations of the ways of your being would have been in that child form, pre-adolescence probably, right? When there wasn't baggage or scarring or anything that happens later on in life when you're just kind of you. And so again, like, I feel like when I was younger, not only would I look out my window and desire the sensation of love, but I would also look at the stars and look at the moon. And I was always pretty happy in nature. So I think that helps me to know where my healing modality is.
Yeah.
Right. Because maybe some people, when they were young, they found their bliss in swimming. And they're like super water, and they're like, water is very cleansing and healing. And maybe those people need to go out on a paddleboard and just sit and be by the water.
Yeah. I love that. My grandma has told me a few times that as a child, I would always sit and just like play in the dirt, and I would like draw stuff in the soil. And the one time she told me that, I was sitting in the garden doing that with a stick. And it feels so good to me to just like move dirt around with a stick. And it seems so simple, but something as a child too, and throughout this whole experience, it's the constant for me. Just, I like drawing like the spiral, or flowers or hearts and that type of stuff. Or sometimes I'll just like make like a trench. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. The reason I had inquired about it being the third quarter too is I had written some stuff this week, or this one little journal entry I wrote, and it was kind of this idea that came to me while laying in bed. I was like, this feeling of, you're trying to do all these things, right? You have these intentions, but like, you're already doing them. They're already happening. It's already well in motion. You're actually doing them quite well, like, you don't, and kind of shifting the thought pattern of, there are these things I have to do, to just being like, oh, like, they're in motion. It's like a river rapid, it's like, it's going, baby, like, you're going. Like, and so that, when you were explaining the third cycle, or the third quarter, it reminds me of that, of just like letting the river take you, right? Like, just let go, let it take you to where it's going, because you can't control it. And especially once the momentum starts picking up with your manifestations, right? It's like, you almost just have to take your hand off the wheel and be like, the surrender and the trust, right? And like, I know we're going to good places here, and just, yeah. So I love that is what the moon is giving us right now too. And cool, we're picking up on it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to kind of crawl the fingers off of the steering wheel and let somebody else drive. Because we might be those types.
Yeah, I wonder. Oh my gosh. When you think about manifesting, and this was something it's been coming up this week too. It's like, what is it? Because you want to create, right? You want to set your intention and move in that direction. But like we just said, it's like, you're not really in control of it. And what I found these last couple of weeks is like, you can't, it's like, it just has to come through, and it'll be even better than you think it's going to be if you let it just happen. And it's that the need to control has to release. But it's like, how do you create that vibration in your body, right? Like, how do you bring yourself into that alignment of just letting it flow? And perhaps it's different for each person, just shifting the focus. But yeah.
For me, I feel like it was an awareness practice.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started to sit and be still, I found that I was able to tap into just like positive sensations, right? Like it was already here and there and everywhere, but it was almost like once I was still, I was like, oh, like I kind of like that. And then I'm the type of person that I was like, oh, remember that? Can I have a little bit of that right now? And then I was like, oh, there it is. And then every once in a while, when I go on my day-to-day life, it would like hit me sideways. And I was like, oh, thank you for that. Like but I would name it. Like I would call it out and be like, oh, there it is. And over time, I took those sensations because they felt like me, like they felt like the real deal. And I incorporated them. And I think we chatted about this before. I incorporated into my dance.
Cool.
So, and again, I'm not trying to brag about the situation that I'm in right now, but the sensation that I called upon during my dance was, in a sense, me manifesting a love that I know that my heart needed. Like I'm just that type of person. I'm meant to be in a very purposeful, loving state.
Yeah.
And I think everybody kind of has their own different ways of bringing in that energy or bringing in that manifestation. But for me, it was like, it's almost like I remember it very vividly too, because I would put on certain songs or not even music at all. And I would move my body, but at the same time, I would tap into or channel into that energy, that vibration of just like love and partnership and sensuality. And it was just like, I feel like I was already living, c'est déjà fait. I was already living in the state. I wasn't with anybody. It was just me creating the person, the vibration that I knew that I was supposed to be in order, for me to feel good, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So I think over time, like you said, it's just having that vibration or that flow, allowing it to happen and not trying to control it anymore, not trying to like hone on the fine details, just being like, this is what I am. I'm going to try to hold this as much as possible, because the longer you hold it, the more, you can sustain it. So it's like, again, it's like bit by bit.
Yeah.
One day it would be like 2 seconds. The next day would be like 5 seconds. A month later, I could hold it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But for me, it took a long time, because I think it was something new to my biofield. So to my mind, body, and soul that I was trying to retrain or train in general.
Yeah. In a similar way, I feel that with my crown chakra and channeling, the way you're talking about like connecting with it for your dance. I feel that way sometimes with speaking. And even when I'm receiving messages at night, I'll almost filter it near the end of the message instead of letting the whole thing play through, because I can get the start of it and then I'll be like, oh, I kind of know what's coming through, and then I'll finish it myself. And it's almost a control thing, right? It's like, let it fully play out, like let it fully come through. And I can feel the difference even speaking right now. It's like keeping the channel open and just letting it flow through and not trying to filter it too much of like how you want it to sound. And it's just a vibration, I guess, but it is a feeling too. So I can understand how with dance that would come through, because it is such a physical like sensation where your body's directly like showing you, I guess, how it feels and what you're putting into it. And you can feel when you're in your flow and when you're not. And Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
But do you find that it, for you, it was something that you had to train?
Yeah.
Or
Oh
is it
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, totally. On a day-to-day basis, I feel I'm constantly like letting it flow, but also keeping my boundaries strong. When I'm in certain situations, I have old patterns of letting other energies in, and feeling other people's energy, and I'm sure this is very common for a lot of people who can feel and tap into those things. It's easy to want to take on other people's stuff that they're projecting, right? And you're like, oh, I understand you. This is what you're going through. But I felt lately I need to create these boundaries in order for me to just feel good, like to keep myself. I've always felt I don't go as high and low with stuff. I find I like to kind of stay in this, everyone has highs and lows, but I feel like I have this area I like to kind of stay in, my like a comfortable space for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I tap into other things, I can receive real good intuitive taps and it brings me really high. But then I find with that comes, I kind of go low from that. Whereas setting these boundaries helps keep me kind of in this nice wavelength, I guess, would be the word that comes to mind, keeping me kind of in my optimal frequency.
It reminds me, and I'm such a visual person, but it reminds me of like a slow incline.
Yeah.
So, because I still feel like you're in the process, even though you have your frequency, I feel like you're always in the process of going a little bit higher and a little bit higher. And that's what it seems like you're working towards.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I feel like in society, they could probably label that sensation of like highs and lows and, put like a medical stamp on it, and maybe even disregard the idea that it's a vibration or an energy all entirely. So it is dependent on, from person to person. But I think for the both of us, we want to honor it and say that it is a vibration and it is an energy thing. There might be influences. So I think we had talked about like sometimes when you eat certain things, you don't dream, or when you're around people, they affect like how you are. But yeah, I would be curious to know if the majority of people, if they actually kind of stopped and wondered about their highs and lows, if they would agree with us and say like, you know what, it does feel more like an energy thing rather than like a chemical imbalance in the brain, like a physiological thing. It's more of just like something a little bit bigger, because there are beliefs out there that the energy can be healing. It can be hurtful, but it can also be healing. So, how far do we go to justify that? If we try to radiate and we try to live at a little bit of a higher frequency, then it will help with some of the physiological elements. So,
and it's curious because after an extended period of time of your energy having highs and lows, perhaps you develop physical symptoms that mimic that high and low. And sometimes I wonder if when we come into the body, we're bringing in old patterns. And maybe this is just how I've felt about my life, is there's been patterns that I've been releasing throughout my whole life. And I came in with certain behaviors and patterns. And so if you see like a child at a young age displaying like ADD or something like that, where it would be kind of these highs and lows, or their energy's a little high and low,
inconsistent.
maybe it's, maybe it's something they're coming into, work towards settling out that frequency, and just and product of your environment too. It's like you said, or what you're eating. There's a lot of factors to it for sure. And this just came to my mind here. I thought about this week. When I was born, I had jaundice, and so my parents had me in the window, in the sun for, first little chunk of my life there. And it came to me this week, and it just made me laugh, because I was like, I love being in the sun, and I love yellow, and it's one of my dominant colors. And I was like, it's funny because as a baby I was jaundiced and was in the sun, and I always saw it as a negative thing, or like I was sick, but this week I kind of saw it as like, maybe that's just what you want in this life, and you knew that coming in.
And you played it out in the physical sense.
Yeah, it made me giggle.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. Just another little point I had written down. I had this dream this week where I was trying to pull this big like house, or this like yurt, and I was trying to pull it through this like really narrow corridor, I guess, and it would not budge. And it was getting harder and harder and harder until it eventually didn't budge. And then when I woke up, I had this idea of like, don't try to pull things into this like narrow place, right? Like, and this is kind of with the manifesting, right? It's like, don't try and pull your intentions into where you think they're supposed to go, because you'll end up in this tight corner with nowhere to go and nothing's moving.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like there's so much help for everybody right now. It's like, let's all do this together. Nobody has to be the soul like pulling on the rope, right? It's like everybody has their own piece of the rope, and that's on a grand scale. You can bring it into just your own life, right? And what you're trying to, whatever you're trying to manifest, and whatever you are manifesting. But yeah, it was really interesting. I was just so tired in the dream, like just trying to pull and pull and pull. And then I was like, yeah, you gotta, don't be trying to pull it where you think it's gotta go.
I like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's tough for a lot of us. I just think of I think of different influences and different other people's situations where it's like, that's like almost like a driving factor for them, right? It's that challenge of pulling it into a narrow space, which is like their goal and their aim. And you do see the fatigue, and you do see, or you hear the way they perceive the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And if only they would kind of like step back and realize like, this doesn't actually make any sense. Like, it's not rational at all. It doesn't even, it can't, it doesn't work. And how much, what else they could do with that energy, rather than trying to do something that is so difficult and so draining. And I don't want to like point fingers at whatever external influences we have in society, but it's nice to have, like, I think it's nice to have kind of boundaries, and it's nice to have awareness, and just be like, take a step back, be the observer, and say like, I don't really need to do this. Like, what's driving this need to pull it? Is it fear? Is it shame? Is it confusion? Like, you just don't know. You have a lack of direction.
Yeah.
Like, what's your driving factor? It might be interesting to for people to understand.
Just let go of the rope, it's going to roll in the way you want it to, even more so than you could possibly imagine. That's the other part too. It's like this force, it's kind of like in Star Wars, right? It's like the force is with you. It's so strong. Like, it's so strong. It's so beautiful that it just has to come through and happen on its own, and you can co-create with it. But yeah, I had this really powerful heart chakra kind of, I guess I did have an energetic release where it released out of like the center of my chest earlier in the week, and the prevailing theme was forgiveness. And
thyself or others, you think?
I think all kind of to go with this theme of letting go of everything. It's like I had written this thing in my journal a while ago saying, a lesson in forgiveness. Why hold on? And the feeling there for me was like, why are you holding on to these things, right? Like, what is there to even hold on to? And why would you want to hold on to something instead of forgiving it? And it stings the ego, right? To say those things, to just be like, to be able to forgive. And I had written, and it came out a little more harsh than I expected it to, but it was, I guess, just kind of like what I was feeling at the time. But I had written, how far are you willing to go? And by this, I mean, how much are you willing to forgive? Because if you aren't willing to forgive everyone and everything, then no matter how much you do or sacrifice or work towards or put your intentions towards, then you'll never be truly free. And yeah, freedom, I had written, freedom thrives with forgiveness. They're intertwined like DNA. And yeah, I felt like to say you would never be truly free felt quite ultimatum to me, and that's where I felt like it was a little harsh. But that is how I was feeling at that time, where I was like, you have to just forgive everything and every person and everything that you're holding on to open the heart. And maybe this isn't for everyone, but it was something I just felt very strongly about in that time. And again, to tie it back into letting go of the rope and letting go of where you think this is going, it was like, open the heart. And yeah, I finished it with, all is forgiven. And yeah.
It's a lot of work.
I know. I didn't even know if I wanted to talk about it.
No, it's good. It's strong. It's powerful. It's
a lot.
I'm sure it opens up some old wounds, especially when I like the idea that you did it harshly, because I think that sometimes we just need that, like, straight to the point. Like, it's not a shade. It's not, well, if you go like 90%, you're like pretty much there. It really makes a difference when you're like, no, like, in order to have that heart open. And it's interesting because I go on a nature walk with my neighbor. She's also a really good friend, and she was talking about the heart chakra and how that's the bridge between the top triangle and the bottom triangle. I don't know if that's plural.
Maybe
maybe in some people. And And when you were talking about like opening up the heart and stuff like that, I was like, wow, like that's so powerful, because if the heart is the bridge between the rooting and the higher energy, the higher realm, like it makes sense that it would have to be that specific and that tough for us to do, for us to work through, because it only makes sense that that much work would bring that together. It can't just be like this little thing that's like, oh, if you just do like this little thing, these entities will come together and you'll be able to serve your higher good. So that's really powerful. And I feel like even today's conversation, I feel like we're being a little bit reserved in what we're saying, like earlier on, like besides the fact that I'm in a new space and everything's a little bit in transition. There's something about our conversation today that, yeah, we're a little hesitant. We're a little like, we know the harshness that may have to be said or may have to come to light. But I almost am curious to think that perhaps it's because we're doing this recording, because we're trying to be as free to speak as possible. But there's, for me anyways, there's a little bit of like, I don't know if I'm ready to express what my truth is in a recording session. But I know that other people will appreciate it. And like, I appreciate obviously these conversations, but I don't know what you feel about today, or if you think that there's a little bit of like, there's so much to it, but at the same time, there's a little bit of a restraint. Or maybe it's just my throat a little closed today. Just drink more tea.
I felt you were very open sharing about the moon, and I felt that was very powerful in understand. I just felt this whole conversation has flowed in a really wonderful manner, and I feel a lot of gratitude for the way it flows. And maybe I feel I'm trying to open up everything. I definitely feel that right now. And like I said, not like let it come through and not try and filter it.
Yeah.
I do feel, I understand being in a new space though, how that changes the dynamic. And if there is, I know for me, I've said since day one, since we've started these conversations, like I've told Jacoby, like I need the house to myself. Like I need to be alone in our space here. Yeah. Although it wouldn't distract me on a visual level, having him in the space, it would be energetically, I understood that I would know he was here and part of me would feel reserved. And okay. And I'm not, that's just me personally. And so that's been one of my intentions that I've stuck towards this whole time, is like feeling like I can say whatever needs to be said in this space. And I trust you, and I feel this freeness that we've had since we've met, right? To feel free and open to say what I need to say with you, and trust that you don't judge what I say, and I don't judge what you say, and we do our best to keep that vibration active, because there's always flowing, right? There's always times, and yeah. But I feel really grateful that I can share these things here, because when I feel them myself, and then I write them down, and then I'm like, I want to share this somehow, but I don't always know how. And to be able to just share something like that, I feel really grateful for that. it is powerful, and I feel it, and I feel it. It's good practice for me to even be speaking it and writing it and bringing it through. And yeah. Nice.
I guess that could segue me into the idea that I had yesterday. Well, it was kind of in the middle of the night ish, morning ish, because it has to do with maintaining the vibration, maintaining the manifestation.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
It's great when, you know, you're working on all these things and you're like, whoa, it's happening. I'm still training out the old, but like I've reached a point where, you know, like I can see and feel and hear and taste all the things of my manifestation come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a moment where I was just like, I'm kind of exhausted. Like I'm kind of tired because I'm not used to vibrating at this type of frequency consistently. And even though it's a positive thing, I still would assume that people who are just starting to tap into this, they would lose it. And I don't think we lose it because we're doing something wrong or, you know, we're falling into old habits. Like I literally think it's again, like almost like, like we can't sustain it. It's just so new that it gets a little exhausting at moments. And I appreciate journaling because when I can't sustain it or when I fall out of it, I'm like, why did I fall out of it? Right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was curious to know, like do you find that as well? Have you ever come to that kind of conclusion?
Absolutely. I've been sleeping a ton lately.
Okay.
Like almost like going to bed. Yesterday I went to bed probably around like 8:30 and read for a little bit and didn't get out of bed till probably like 7:30 or 8 this morning. So it was like it's been like 12-hour chunks that I'm like everything off, just like in my space, whether I sleep that entire time or not.
Yeah.
It's okay. I totally felt when you said it's like you're tired, but it feels really good. And I'm definitely feeling that too, where it's like to maintain that vibration, there is a lot of rest that comes with it as well, and cycling through that. And that makes a lot of sense, right? It's like it's unrealistic to think you're just gonna continually just go higher and higher and higher and higher, right? Like you've said many times, like everything's cyclical, right? You're always coming back. I totally feel you on the journaling. I'll be like, why do I feel like this? You know, like where, and I think our first episode we talked about this where you go, oh yeah, like, hey, you know, like you remember your flow again and you find that vibration and you're like, yes, like I'm here. I didn't like dip down as low this time. It didn't take me so long, because I'm sure you feel like this too when at certain points in your journey, there was potentially times where like, you know, I could be like in a 2-month low, you know, or even longer. And then it's like your lows get less and less. And I've been feeling the cycle thing with the lows, almost seeing the lows as like nighttime or darkness, right? Like kind of like just when it's dark at night, you know, that can be like a lower time for you. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean like sad or frustrated, like any of those feelings you feel when you're low, right?
Yep. Yep.
Just seeing it as literally just like sick, I don't know,
like rest and
light and
recovery.
dark. Yeah, yeah. The day I had the energetic release out of my heart, the whole morning I felt really off and was in that mode where I was like, like I don't even know exactly the feeling, but just like, you know, frustrated, feeling kind of off, feeling like the way, okay, so like say you're like juggling, right? I feel like I was like, just like dropping a lot of stuff, you're dropping the balls, you know, whereas like after I had the energetic release, I felt like I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I got like, you know, maybe one back, and then two, you know, and then you bring in three. And I don't know where I'm at right now. I don't think I'm dropping that many right now.
I feel like you're at 7.
Cool. I'll take it. Yeah. So I totally feel that. Yeah. It's so realistic. To me, it's realistic to feel like you're gonna go through those waves. And I think consistency is helpful, kind of like we were saying at the beginning with the moon cycle, right? Like being consistent with whatever it is you're putting your energy towards. It's like, just be consistent with that, and it's gonna happen. You know, it's like, it's gonna happen because and you and I are been talking lately about like really narrowing the focus, right? Like we're like, dial it in, like be really intentional and focused with it. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. I think that's just kind of where we're at right now with things that are going on in our life, and just, yeah, maybe other people are feeling that. And yeah. I have something really random, but do you want to add anything? I don't want to.
The only thing I was going to add is I just wrote down honoring the low. So rather than getting down about a low or being like, you know, the self-talk, like the negative self-talk that, you know, we all have the tendency to do every once in a while. Changing that even that wording and being like, all right, I'm down here, and being in it and resting, like being aware that I'm in this low. So I'm just going to rest. I'm going to take this opportunity to rest because that's what apparently I need right now.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of empowering. And I was just like, I like it when we figure out how to just change our wording around.
Yeah. So empowering, like shifting the whole timeline, you know?
That's it.
I love that. Love it. I wanted to, I want to include our listeners somehow and bring in, I just want to open this up to that. And I had this idea since maybe week 2, but I haven't brought it up. And so it's called, I had called it Quick, Quirky Cues, like questions. And so I just thought it would be a fun way to just like, you know, sometimes I get random things that during the week where I'll be like a random question. And it's kind of silly, or it doesn't have to be silly either, but just like a quick question, you know? And so I thought maybe like we could start by just, you know, someone ask, you know, I can ask you a question and we can both respond or whatever. And then if listeners want to join in, they can add a comment at the bottom of the video what their answer would be. So just
cute.
Like, yeah, I don't know. We can see how it goes.
And I think it's quite clever that you leave it for closer to the end of the episode so that they have to listen to the whole thing in order to know what the question is.
Gotta work for it, man.
Right? So good. Good.
I had one closer to Christmas that I didn't ask, and I don't know if it would be relevant now because it was kind of Christmas themed, but
I don't know.
I thought an easy one to start with would just be, we've kind of talked about this at the farm before, but if you were a type of vegetable, what type of vegetable would you be? Just keep it real.
Oh my God. How does that doesn't have anything to do with Christmas?
Oh, that was my new one.
Oh, that was the other one. Okay.
I'll do the Christmas one
next year.
Yeah. We'll wait.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I wish I would remember what I answered back in the summer. Yeah.
Maybe your vegetable in the winter would be different than your summer vegetable.
And I'm continuously learning about new vegetables.
Yeah.
As well. I try to explore the different ethnic markets and stuff like that. And I'm like, what is this? I'm going to bring it home and cook it. And I don't know what it is.
That's fun. Awesome.
It's fun. Oh my gosh. What type of vegetable would I be? So, I think the first thing that comes to mind today, and maybe it's because I have a couple sitting in my pantry as well, is a red beet.
Okay.
Yeah. There's so many elements to the beet where, like, I love the greens. I'm a whole green fan. I guess, like, I was talking about beets yesterday at work because, you know, that's what we do at work. We talk about beets. And the red, like, I love the vibrant color, that rich, deep color. I love the idea that it's grown like within the earth. So it's a vegetable that when you pull it out, it's like earthy and it's like crevette. It has little like bumps and ridges and it's textured. But then when you peel the earth away, it's this like vibrant red. And I think maybe what I'm physiologically going through right now, I like the concept of like blood cleansing ideas. Yeah. So when I associate colors with what part of my body I'm trying to heal, I think of a beet as being like a blood cleanser. Yeah. So I think right now I'll go with beet. And also I like the concept that you can eat it raw or cooked. Yeah. And like a potato where you have to cook it. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm kind of all those. I can, you know, you can have a little bit of my greens. I'm a little bit rooted. Yeah. You can have me raw or cooked. Yeah. You can be spiraled. You can chop me up. Very versatile. Yeah. Add color to things, but I'm also healing. Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
I love it.
You beat. You write that down.
That's awesome. Right. Beat.
So what are you feeling today?
I feel I'm a cabbage.
What?
Yeah.
A Napa cabbage?
No, I was thinking like a classic cabbage.
Ooh.
But maybe my winter one would be a fermented cabbage because that's what I'm into right now. A sauerkraut.
You do make some good sauerkraut.
I just love it so much. It's always my go-to when I'm, you know, what veggie would I be? Like, I just love cabbage. I just love it so much.
That's it? Just because you love it? You can make sauerkraut with it? That's all you're going to give us?
I love the sauerkraut. It's nice on the gut. It stores well all winter, which I love. Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got. Maybe next week it'll be a Napa.
A little more loose, not so tight.
Yeah. I'll be a red cabbage, so then we can I'll tag on to the red theme, the red beet.
Nice.
Red cabbage.
Nice.
Yeah. So if any of our listeners want to add what vegetable they would be and a why, if they want to add that too, or just straight the what veg, I thought that would be cool.
So good. I love that. It's playful, but it can go as deep as they want to go.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and
I'm curious too, like, because I feel the people that are watching this are resonate with this, right? That's why they're watching it. And I always find myself wondering, like, okay, so maybe here's another quick, we might need to name it something else. Quick, quirky cue is if any listeners notice things in the videos, and maybe this is just my third eye fascination, right, with like clairvoyance, but like anybody who's watching, if they see like, oh, you're, you know, in the background of one of your videos, this happens, or like this aura was really bright when you said this, or if they're seeing different things in the video that you and I aren't necessarily seeing, it's like, I'm really curious what people would be seeing, because, you know, I have family members who see different things that I don't see, right? So I'm curious what our listeners are seeing, I guess. And
okay,
maybe it's easy, I don't know. Yeah, I just want to know. Just curious, I guess.
I also appreciate the idea of encouraging them to try to see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just it is what they see. So it's not right or wrong. It's not like it's not going to sound out of this world. Like it's a very safe space for them to share.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like you see more after you practice.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's invite them to, if they're open to it, let's invite them to do a little practice. We can be the guinea pigs.
Nothing's off the table. It's like the things you and I talk about are like nothing's too far, nothing's too much. Like it's a safe space to share, and yeah.
I agree.
It can't be any more nuts than what's going on in my head. So yeah.
Or that's going on de mo estilo.
Yeah.
Because there's some fun stuff that goes on. And it just keeps getting richer and richer as we go on, and as you practice, and as you set different things, and as you feel safe. Once you feel safe, you can really open up. And
yeah.
So
for sure,
I love that.
Nice place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That feels good.
Yeah.
That feels awesome. Good. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of this, and thank you.
À la prochaine.
À la prochaine.